Let me start with something that might surprise you. Smart leaders stall. Yeah, they do. Not average leaders, not underqualified leaders, smart ones. The ones with degrees, the ones running organizations, the ones people look to for answers. They stall and they quietly assume it's a discipline issue. They tell themselves, I just need to tighten up. I need to focus. I need to manage my time better. But here's the question I want you to sit with today. What if you're not stalling because you lack discipline? What if you're stalling because your decision system is overloaded? Think about this. If your laptop had 47 tabs open, kind of like mine does sometimes, three heavy programs running, and constant notifications pinging, would you shame the laptop or would you close some of the tabs? That's what executive overload is. It's not a character flaw, it's too many open tabs. Hi, I'm Dr. Rhonda Simmons, the leadership formation strategist. And I recently worked with a CEO who walked into a session saying, I feel stuck. I know what needs to change. I just can't move. She wasn't unclear. She definitely wasn't lazy. And she wasn't unfocused. She was carrying operations, staffing, revenue strategy, brand repositioning, community engagement, and board communication all at once. Every decision felt urgent. Every issue felt personal, and every initiative felt necessary. So she stalled, not because she didn't know what to do, but because everything demanded equal cognitive weight. And when everything is important, nothing moves. Let me ask you, where in your leadership does everything feel equally urgent? That's not a motivation issue. That's architecture. Inside what I call the executive decision architecture model, we look at four structural levers: filtering, sequencing, capacity calibration. See, it's one of those days, right? Execution design. Those are the four structural levers. Let me go over it again. Filtering, sequencing, capacity, calibration, and executive design. This is not a personality conversation. It's structural. So let's break it down together, okay? First, there's filtering. Most leaders are not drowning in tasks. They're drowning in unfiltered decisions. If you are reevaluating the same type of decision every week, your system is broken. One executive refined her entire offer structure in a single 4-hour session. She wasn't confused, she was broad. Once we filtered her audience and clarified who she actually served, everything simplified. Her revenue simplified, her messaging simplified, her pricing simplified. Filtering removes the noise. So let me ask you this question. What decisions are you making repeatedly that should have been architected once? Hmm, that's a good question. Another executive was trying to raise tuition, hire staff, build systems, prepare accreditation, and launch new programs, all in the same quarter. Not because she was chaotic, but because she was capable. But capability without sequencing leads to overload. In education, we call the curriculum that we teach the scope and sequence. Once we have the curriculum, we have to scope it out and sequence it out over time. So with the executive, we staged her moves. Phase one, then phase two, then expansion. Same intelligence, different order. What are you trying to move simultaneously that should be staged? Now, this next area is kind of uncomfortable. Your capacity fluctuates, your capability does not. But many leaders design systems assuming that they'll have peak performance 365 days a year. That's just not possible. Neither is it realistic. One executive director I coached was managing team transitions and governance pressure and public visibility simultaneously. When we calibrated her leadership rhythms instead of pushing harder, her communication strengthened, her presence sharpened, and her confidence stabilized. Capacity calibration means designing for sustainability, not heroics. In other words, can you sustain the pace for the long haul? Can you do what you do over time? So, where are you designing your leadership as if you were always at 100%? Am I preaching to the choir? Execution is not about willpower, it's about guardrails. One client said after a session, I walked in unsure of how to move forward, and I walked out with a clear, actionable plan. That's not magic, that's architecture. When guardrails exist, decisions narrow, focus sharpens, momentum builds. So let me ask you a direct question. If clarity hasn't translated into movement, is the issue really motivation or is it structure? Here's the truth. You can optimize yourself for years. Better calendar, better habits, better mindset. But if your decision architecture remains overloaded, you will keep stalling at higher levels. At some point, serious leaders redesign, not because they failed, but because they're ready. So if today's briefing resonated with you, we go deeper inside From Chaos to Clarity, a live decision architecture session for corporate executives. In that 4-hour session, we map your real friction. We rebuild your executive filter. We design a 90-day shift and we install execution guardrails. This is not coaching chatter. It's structural work. So if you're ready to stop pushing harder and start redesigning smarter, I'll see you inside.